Last week on MoneyFish.
Hooked that fish briefly after a giant backlash. I tried to feed him and you know, all that stuff, and got a couple jumps, and you know, that really was the end of the tournament for us.
Then we basically spent the next 2 days kind of hanging out at the dock, seeing what people brought in, and making sure we were there to support the tournament that we were backing and that we were involved with.
Right now, you know, our eyes are focused on White Marlin Open. It's going to be a $2.6 million payout, and that's what we need to do.
Catcher, rockin' hook gear, ain't no one better. Lake to salt water, pond to big river. When I bait the hook, I always deliver. Only one thing always on my list. Wake up and hunt that money fish. Put your boat in, call your friends. It's about that time to go fishing again. We on the hunt for that money fish. When we set that hook, we don't ever miss. One day this game is gonna make us rich, y'all. Climb on board, let's hunt that money fish. Top water terror, bait caster bandit, deep sea demon, the fish can't stand it. Know that I'm coming, saltwater chumming, largemouth legend, show up and catch him. There's only one thing always on my list. Wake up and hunt that money fish. Put your boat in, call your friends. It's about that time to go fishing again. Oh, I'm about to get him right here. Gonna take that thing. It's that money fish. We on the hunt for that money fish. When we set that hook, we don't ever miss. One day this game is gonna make us rich, y'all. Climb on board, let's hunt that money fish.
Docked over at Sunset Marina for the White Marlin Open. Definitely going to be the best of the best there. White Marlin fishing, very prestigious tournament, biggest billfish tournament in the world. Hopefully they'll be even bigger this year than it was last year. The setting there at Sunset is pretty cool. All the guys are on Sea Dock and stretch out from there. The best there is, all right there crammed together.
White Marlin Open here in Ocean City is probably one of the best tournaments for fishermen that you can have on the East Coast, with over 300 boats this year, which means with 4 anglers a boat, you're looking at 1,200 anglers, and you've got to beat all 1,200 of them to try to be the best. And it really proves, you know, who's a good fisherman. There's a lot of luck in it, but also a lot of skill. If you don't have the skill, you can have all the fish in the world, but you can miss it. White Marlin Open gives you that chance to be competitive that other small tournaments don't give you. So that's one of the reasons why I like coming up here, so I can be more competitive.
White Marlin Open, you know, the first thing you're doing is looking at prepping baits, making sure your boat's set to go, and then looking at weather, and then where are the fish. And there's a lot of milling around, there's a lot of discussion, you know, around amongst a lot of the captains, and we were adopted, and it's because of how great these guys are. They adopted us into the group to at least talk to us and help us out, let us know what they're doing, and stay in touch, and that's special.
But being docked at Sunset, there's a lot of camaraderie that goes on, a lot of people hanging out, talking. It's great to be around great fishermen and having fun. The tournament's spread over 5, 6, 7 different marinas, I'm assuming. You can fish it all the way from Virginia Beach all the way to New Jersey. So there's many fishermen in different places, but a good concentration of them are at Sunset, which makes it a great place to hang out, see people, talk about fishing strategies with other boats, and just have a good time.
We're going to go out on a pre-fish day. Big John in the full pull, Ryan Riggs running the boat. A couple new mates in town that we don't know, but let's go get some white marlin.
Your choice of fishing apparel can make or break your day out on the water. Added mesh vents for superior breathability. Moisture transport cooling technology to keep you dry and comfortable. And antimicrobial to keep you from smelling like your catch. With added SPF to keep you protected. We've added stain release to keep the blood or any other stains at bay. Our most technologically advanced fishing shirt for all the necessary dirty work.
Fish on! Come on, get together.
The Nomad system is engineered to help you get back to the basics. Integrated assembly. Silver Z scent suppression system. Industry-leading scent reduction technology. Each piece is modular, but can stand on its own. Expanding gussets in the outer shell give you freedom of movement in the early season, but allows you to expand the foul weather system in winter. Nomad provides technical clothing built by hunters for hunters.
So we're, heading out offshore in the full pull. We get to, probably right around the poor man's area, getting ready to drop into the deep, and Ryan comes off the throttle, and let's put the lines out and just kind of putt around. They had just got up here. They wanted to see what was going on. It wasn't long. We're coming by a poly ball with a high flyer on it. So it's time to grab a rod. I mean, anything could be under there. Most likely mahi, but white marlin, tuna, all those fish come off of there when there's bait on them. So rod in hand, ready to go. And I don't think I got it out of the clip, and it was eaten, and I got the mahi fed, and it was on. So we're putting around out in the deep after catching some inshore on the poly balls, and man, we had a huge bite on the left flat, and one of the mates grabbed it, Danny, and came tight on what was probably a 40-pound mahi with just a giant paddle head, and next thing you know, they're all in on us, just mobbing all the baits. So we start pitching them out. I got bit, fed it, came tight, lost it. Got bit again, came tight, lost it, got bit again. I mean, it's probably 5 times that they were just, by that point, basically eating a skeleton. We're way out in the deep, trolling, and Big John yells, "Grab the 50s, there's tuna everywhere," and you kind of look around the boat, and it's just acres of big yellowfin, 70 to 100 pound class, just blowing up on top. You know, stuff you see not really offshore in Maryland. It doesn't happen very often. And you know, by the time everybody's running in, grabbing 50s, trying to get baits out, we just got mobbed. I mean, they just wrecked us. They're hanging on the teasers. They're in the dredges. They ate every bait that we had out on the 30s and one on the 50s. And it was just absolute chaos. And you know, when the dust settled at the end of it, between fish crossing lines and burning through the you know, the 25, 30 pound mono and coming unglued on the 50s, there was one fish left. You know, just locked in and got to it. And Ryan had some fun with me, I will say that. He soaked me several times. Not necessarily backing down on the tuna, but backing down to get me wet. And by the end of that, I was a lot cooler off. But yeah, got it in. It was a backbreaker, man. Those fish on those small rods will dig in and hurt you. And you know, fortunately, we were able to get him to the boat without him chafing off the leader or getting sharked or any of that. And you know, we had some dinner that night.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. Got to take some people fishing that really wanted to learn how to do it, and appreciated the aspect of the fine details of it and trying to get there and working their way to get there. And so when they would come free fishing with us, they would ask questions and do little different things, and we'd show them stuff. And you know, it was really neat and interesting to see how they were downloading and getting better. And for the week, they started catching a few fish, which was great to see. It was awesome to see.
This is performance, from the first fish to the last.
We torture our lights so you can rely on them in the real world. Rigid Industries has created the world's toughest LED lights, now available for your boat. Start seeing the difference. Rigid Industries.
The Nomad system is engineered to help you get back to the basics. Integrated assembly. Silver Z scent suppression system. Industry-leading scent reduction technology. Each piece is modular, but can stand on its own. Expanding gussets in the outer shell give you freedom of movement in the early season, but allows you to expand the foul weather system in winter. Nomad provides technical clothing built by hunters for hunters.
So being up here and fishing with these guys is invaluable. The week before, we had the boat dialed up. We fished with Ryan, and that was pretty special. And we had one really special day where, you know, Ryan said, hey, you know, why do you come on the full pull, and why doesn't John come on as well? And it was a day we went out to really learn what was going on and what they were seeing and how they do it on a day-to-day basis. And they do it with such ease and such passion that it's, you know, for us, it's one of these things you're so excited, but they're just so good at it that you just try to pick up the nuances and really be a sponge and absorb as much knowledge as you can for the time you have with these two captains. You had two of the best fishermen in the world standing on the same boat at the same time, working together. That's pretty incredible, and that's what gives you chills is being with these guys that are the best and learning from them. John was wiring our fish while Riggs was backing down, and vice versa. John was backing down while Riggs was fighting a fish. It was incredible. Week leading up to it that's our practice week. That's like practice before Friday Night Lights. I mean, we were getting out there fishing with John and Riggs and fishing ourselves and having some time to see what these guys do, how they fish, and then repeating that with our crew to get some practice and then going back with them. And it's just like that. It's just like any other sport. You have to practice, you have to be coached, and you have to learn from hook sizes to leaders to how you're feeding the fish to what's a typical reaction of a White Marlin Open if he comes up on the teaser or the dredge or the long, and spending these days leading up to the tournament going out with Brian and John and Billy to learn how they're doing it, and being the best and learning from the best helps you get better. Now we're never going to be like that fishing X number of days before the tournament and then trying to go in there, but it makes you competitive, and that's what it's about. We're a group that can figure things out and make it happen, and we're going to get better. We don't think we're the best, but we're going to get better every day. Really, this time spent with these guys and the techniques and how to hook fish and what the fish is doing is what made us more successful this year than last year.
Your choice of fishing apparel can make or break your day out on the water. Added mesh vents for superior breathability. Moisture transport cooling technology to keep you dry and comfortable, and antimicrobial to keep you from smelling like your catch, with added SPF to keep you protected. We've added stain release to keep the blood or any other stains at bay. Our most technologically advanced fishing shirt for all the necessary dirty work.
This is performance, from the first fish to the last.
tuna tournament, big fish classic. We've been getting white marlin bites a lot, but we really hadn't had the chance to white marlin fish, and it was one of the things we knew we had to get better at, because last year we were awful. And we're finally ready to go out. The spread is all changed out. We have very few big rods. It's all the little stuff. Dredges, teasers, we're dialed in. The electric reels are running. I mean, stuff we didn't have last year. So very excited to go out and white marlin fish for the first time on the Warbird.
We wanted to pre-fish because we still had a lot of dialing in to do. We had some adjustments to make on the hooks. We had adjustments to make on the baits. We had to figure out what setup we were going to do. We had to adjust the riggers. There's a bunch of different things that needed to happen. So we wanted to pre-fish on Tuesday of the week between white marlin and big fish. Unfortunately, Josh had to go, and he was the only other one here, and we were still down. So basically, we were down Josh, Doc, and Hart. And the only people we had to fish was Ben, Drew, and myself. So what that means for a white marlin setup is few people are doing a lot of different things. But after the learning experience with Duffy and with the size of the back of that boat, we feel like, you know, 2 people can cover the spread relatively well. Maybe a little bit slow on reaction time and stuff, especially myself. But by and large, we had to get a dry run in. We get out there that day, and it's slow. We go to what's known as a rock pile. We find a nice weed line, and we figure, hey, let's just troll this weed line. And usually there's at least mahi on the weed line, but where there's bait fish, there's bigger fish, and where there's bigger fish, there's even bigger fish. So that was kind of the philosophy. We got a mahi bite, and yeah, I was fighting that fish, and we get it all the way up to the boat. Unfortunately, right as we were about to grab the leader and get it in, it spit the bait at the very last second. I mean, it was within, probably could have gaffed it. It was within gaff reach, but we didn't get there.
You know, we just drove around and drove around and drove around, but we're marking bait. Found a great weed line, just working it up and down. Just, you know, nothing was happening. You know, a couple mahi bites, but really weren't pulling it together. But I knew there was bait there, and after being out with the other guys, I knew that if you just stayed on it long enough, at 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, something was going to come up and eat. And sure enough, it did, man. We had one white one come in and just crashed the plug to the point where we couldn't pull it away. And, you know, fish on.
Set the hook, got it done. We got the fish to the boat, and everything was great and successful. Well, that was one. So we're like, okay, can we make this 2? Can we make it 3? Can we make it 4? How many can we do on this boat with this crew, with this setup?
One of the unique things about a white marlin is I think they're very aggressive fish. They just suck at eating. They'll kind of come in and slash at it or with their bill, or they'll grab it, and it really just doesn't go down in their gullet. I mean, you're pulling it behind a boat, so the bait isn't falling. So the trick is to, when you get bit or when the bait gets hit, to drop it in the free spool with as little tension as possible, so that fish can grab the bait, and if he's kind of dog boning you, swim away and move it into his mouth and swallow it. Or if he whacks it, drop it like any bait fish would. When it got hit with a bill, it would just kind of drop lifeless. And that's why they're so tough. It's so tough for us, at least, that you have to be on that rod for that moment, and if you don't beat them to it, they're gone. And you know, our first day of pre-fishing kind of happened. You know, it's we get a bite, feed them, hook them up a little bit late, never know if the hook was in there, fish comes out of the water, bait goes flying, and too slow. And I think that's just one of those things with pre-fishing where everybody's not 100% on point. We get a bite, fish is up on the plug, fades back to the outrigger. He's biting it. Now Brad Stubbs grabs the rod and immediately grabs the rod and starts yanking on it to pop it out of the rigger clip. And everybody's screaming, no, 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 no. And, luck was with us. And he had that fish hooked anyway by the time the rigger clip popped. But, at that point, he fed and hooked a white marlin, and we're off to the races. So we're able to release another fish that day. And, it was a good ending. First day out, 2 for 3, even though we didn't get a bite till 2:30. Fired up coming into the White Marlin Open.